Fred, well, welcome to the Sun today. This is Fred Bahou. He's running for the 18th Middlesex House of Representatives seat that was vacated by Kevin Murphy, who's now the city manager. Fred Bahou is running as an independent. Fred, why don't you tell us a little about your interesting background, how long you've been in Lowell, you've been a businessman, so just give us a little update for the people out there who don't know Fred Bahou the way that we know Fred Bahou.
Sure, I'd love to. I'm Fred Bahou. I'm an independent candidate for state representative of the 18th Middlesex District. My parents came here in 1956 as immigrants with 3 children. I'm from a family of 6. I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital in 1963. A number of people came in with after my family that were extended family, as many as 60 relatives, and most of us were born overseas. It was myself, 2 brothers, and 1 cousin that were all born in the United States. I own and operate a convenience store on Westford Street in Lowell. It's been a family business since 1972. I sit on the Greater Lowell Tech School Committee. You know, my passion is kids, because, you know, when you run a convenience store, generally it's kids that come in and are always talking about guidance, talking about their families, talking about the schools they go to, talking about what they do, the parks, the ball, the type of ball that they play, or, you know, the type of drama or anything that they're into. So I've really developed a real, you know, love for children. With that being the case, I ran for the Greater Lowell Tech School Committee, identifying that there was as many as 450 students being turned away a year. And I thought that was something to go ahead and grab onto. With that being the case, that was in 2007. I lost that campaign. However, I did bring some, you know, paperwork. But in 2008, we had 2,020 people, 2,020 students in the building, and by the time 2013 rolled around, we had 2,190 people in the building. So we increased our student body by 170, and our waiting list went from over 400 to this year at 115. So, you know, I think that I've done a lot of work to go ahead and try to help the youth. I donate to a lot of organizations: Calorie Park, Highland Park, local churches, St. George Church on Bower Street. And, you know, and I've been a part of this community all of my life. I've owned a number of residences. I've rehabbed them, and I've always considered Lowell and the 18th Middlesex my home.
Beautiful. That's a great start. All right, let's talk. You've been happy with sitting on the technical school board, the regional technical school board. You have a new superintendent there.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is what made you consider this jump from the school committee, where you were obviously happy and doing a pretty good job, now to the state rep? Do you think you're changing constituencies?
Mm-hmm.
How did that factor into your into your mind? And
well, firstly, I felt like I was an effective, you know, school committee member, and I worked with all of Lowell to go ahead and make, you know, Greater Lowell Tech the best vocational school that it can be, as much as I could do, working with the superintendents and the other fellow school committee members. However, you know, the 18th Middlesex District has been, you know, a place that I've lived all my life. I've seen, you know, state reps come and go. Mr. Shea, Mr. Rourke, Mrs. Rourke, Mr. Pangiatakis, and, you know, most recently Kevin Murphy. I've always been associated with them. I've always known them. I've always spoken to them. I think that, you know, being in my business, I deal well with constituent services, because that's part of, you know, being a representative of a business, being a representative of a school committee, and I would love to be the representative of the area, because I feel like I could be a very good representative, bringing, you know, the 18th Middlesex District to the State House and what our needs are.
Fred, you know, you've been on the tech school committee now for several years, so that's basically your record. That's the record you're running on, in addition to your community involvement. The tech, it's been well publicized, has gone through some turmoil, particularly relating to superintendents. The current superintendent up there, I hear right now, Roger Bourgeois, is doing a tremendous job. Who did you support to succeed Mary Jo, right? Mary Jo
Santoro.
Mary Jo Santoro. Did you support Bourgeois, or were you supporting Norkowitz?
Well, it wasn't like that. As a matter of fact, if you recall, we took 207 votes.
Right.
When
Yeah,
it
and it was
came down to
deadlocked, yeah.
Norkowitz and Schlipman. At that
Right.
particular time, I backed the person that was in the vocational industry for a long time.
And that was?
Which was Dave Norkowitz
Right.
at the time.
Okay.
Paul Schlipman, a very smart gentleman, went to Harvard and such like that. More on the academic side. I really like the idea of the vocational person running the school, so at that time I backed Dave Norkowitz. But and that vote took us 2.5 months
Right.
realistically. After that, we finally decided to reopen that search, and we ended up with Roger Bourgeois. And it became a unanimous vote for Roger to head our school.
Okay, so Roger wasn't in that. He
was
wasn't
not
a
in the
candidate
original mix.
initially against Norkowitz, right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
And
correct.
what kind of job do you think he's been doing up there?
Roger?
Yeah.
Wow, he works hours on end in that school. He must throw 10 to 12 hours per day. He came in January. We've currently renegotiated 7 unions contracts. Roger was there renegotiating those contracts regularly. He never left. I worked with him for the teacher's contract. He knew exactly, the direction to go. He liked the idea of moving our insurance, which was at a 15% pay rate from the teachers union, all the way up to 25% in our 4th year. So that was something that always sat heavy on the school committee, and Roger was right there to go ahead and work on that.
So that sounds like an endorsement, is it?
Roger was outstanding at his work. It was a true endorsement. Also, we've had some administrators leave, and Roger has blended their jobs to go ahead and give other administrators more work. With that being the case, we've eliminated or reduced a number of jobs, 10 in the past number of months, and mostly administrative, which, to me, we were top heavy. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education came in 2012 and said we were top heavy on administration. And that was in the report, and Roger got a hold of that report before we interviewed him, and he said we're going to have to start, to eliminate some of the jobs here that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the school or the student body, and he did that.
As Jim said, you're going to be dealing with a completely different constituency. But what have you learned on the Greater Lowell Tech School Board in terms of politics and consensus building and trying to reach a resolution that that you'll be able to take to the State House?
Sure.
And be an effective leader or representative at the State House?
The most important thing that I've learned is communication. You need to communicate, and you need to identify the other person's, thoughts and remarks. When we were on our 4-4 split, none of our school committee members had any animosity towards each other. We both tried, or both sides, if you will, per se, tried to go ahead and resolve the issue. There was once, and I spoke to you, Mr. Campanini, that, let's try to put Dave Norkowitz as the superintendent, and let's try to make Paul Schlipman as the assistant superintendent. So there was that type of resolution, that type of, conversation going on regularly. So I just, that's what I developed, as well as to go ahead and understand, when you're working with somebody or some group, to look at their side of it and to say, what, I think that's really a good idea, and to back off and say, I can support that upon hearing more, going in with one frame of mind, but coming out with, and trying to present my point to the best that I can. However, also coming out and trying to resolve any issue,
As a small businessman, okay, you've been running that convenience store, and you know the pressures that are being exerted on business people from taxation, healthcare, other regulations. Like, how does that play in with your campaign now and your viewpoint, going into the legislature, where your district is a lot of middle-class families? Okay, some of them are business people. Okay, do you look at yourself as representing the small business owner if you were elected to go to the State House? And what are some of the things that you'd like to work on, if so, to help the small business people and middle-class property owners?
Sure, small business owner, family man, ordinary people in the district. Those are my constituents, and those are the people that I would like to go ahead and work with and represent at the state level. As far as small business goes, yes, I've been a small business owner, since 1986. I started the business with my brother in 1994 or 1995. We split up. It became my business to go ahead and operate. It has a lot of growth, has a lot of growing pains, I think. And in all those years, and I think about it, at first I started, renting videos, and not long after that, and it was just a convenience store. But what can you do differently that your opposition, that the people that are running the same type of businesses are doing, so that you can attract customers. So I started doing videos. Videos came and went. Blockbuster appeared, West Coast appeared. You try to stay in business. Then I started doing cell phones. I started selling cell phones, so that was something that was working out pretty well for me as well. After that came cell phone stores came across the city. They hit the landscape widely. The commission rate went down. I started doing wire transfers and phone cards. And that worked very well for a long time. Patriot Act came in play. It became a little more difficult to go ahead and work with wire transfer business. And then I developed a deli a number of years ago, and after the deli, I went ahead and created a beer and wine at my location. So you got to diversify your business.
Did the state encourage all this? Did you have excessive regulations you had to go through to do all this? I mean, if you go to the State House, is Massachusetts business friendly?
I think what I would try to do, based on my knowledge, is to go ahead and firstly try to get. The unemployment rate is high in the state of Massachusetts. People want to start their own business. They don't necessarily know what to do. There used to be some seed money that went ahead and got people to start small businesses. However, what happened was the business would open, and after 6, 9, 12, 16 months, unfortunately, it would close. I would like to work with those business owners and go ahead and say, okay, so what are you doing different than maybe the business owner down the street to go ahead and attract new customers and keep your base going and moving forward. Whenever we had a grand opening, when I had a grand opening for my deli, boom, the thing went really hot. But after a while, people were saying, Fred, we need seating. Fred, we need, can you do a takeout window? And, before you know it, it was bigger than I, could go ahead and grab onto. So I would like to work with small business owners and let it be ongoing to what they can go ahead to do to develop their businesses. I've been going to a restaurant called Maya, not far from the old Lowell Sun building, right down the street from the Blue Tala. It's a sushi restaurant. It's where, you know the name of that restaurant that used to be there? You got it? I can't think of the name of it.
What, the Brazilian restaurant?
Yeah, no, not the Brazilian restaurant. Anyway, it's old sushi. It's old
Estigo?
Estigo. Well, they put in that location, and and it's a wonderful place, but there's scaffolding all around that location. And I would love to see that business go ahead and take off. The people that are running that operation are there every time that I walk in. It's a family-run business. And to go ahead and support local businesses is probably the most important thing that I can identify with, as well as to try to identify to people within our community.
How many employees do you have?
Currently 4.
Full-time, part-time?
No full-timers. I'm the only full-timer.
Okay, if you're elected to the state legislature, are you going to be a full-time legislature? Are you going to continue to, how are you going to meet that commitment?
I take my work very seriously. The full-time legislator, I would be a full-time legislator. I would probably go in the mornings, open, set up, make my orders, get ready for deliveries, leave 9 in the morning. I know I'd have to be at the State House. I generally take Tuesdays off. We're here on a Tuesday right now. Go into the State House, do my due diligence, do whatever work that I need to do at the State House, be in my office at the State House, and then come home, and at night, I'm sure that I could go ahead and, make sure my business is running efficiently, as well as, set them up for the following morning. So I would reduce my work schedule, which is currently at about 45 to 50 hours per week, to somewhere around the 25-hour mark.
All right, now, you're running as an independent. Talk to us about that. Have you been unenrolled how long have you been an unenrolled registered voter? Or were you registered as a Democrat? How did that transpire?
I've been unenrolled all my life.
Okay.
I've always wanted to pick the best person for the job, whether it was at local politics or whether it was state politics or whether it was national politics. So I've crossed party lines. I've only worked to go ahead and make my vote count. So that's what it's been.
So that's the reason why you're running as an independent candidate?
That is correct.
Okay. So now this has been talked about. The 18th is an interesting district with the constituency. You have probably more minorities in that district, so it forms a majority representation. Okay. So what are you doing to appeal? You say you want to, you're going to be representing all the people of that district.
Absolutely.
So what have you been doing to appeal to Cambodians and other minority constituents who are registered voters in that district? How do you see that, your chance to represent all those people?
Most importantly, you've got to consider where my location of my business is, and that's located at 583 Westford Street. It's part of that majority-minority area that is in the city of Lowell. My customer base is 50%. What shall we say here? Cultural, and 50% been around for a long time. With that being the case, that is my base on being able to work in my district. I have constantly been working with the Asian community, the Hispanic community, the local community, as well as anybody that walks in, any population that passes through my business. I have ongoing relationships with them. I've gone to the temples a number of times. I've worked hard, and upon walking on doors, I am walking on every door. I went to the CMAA open house the other day. I will work hard with the Cambodian Mutual Assistance. I think they're doing great work over there. They're teaching English as a second language. They're offering tax services. They're offering real estate programs. They're offering blend in to the area that you're in. I'll be going down to UTEC today, and UTEC is something that has a lot of teen involvement, keeping teens off the street. So that is, something that's vital to our community, as well as our 18th Middlesex District.
Fred, we spoke yesterday, and we talked about your effort to try to get some high-profile politicians to back you and come out in favor of you. You mentioned Rita, you mentioned Panji, you mentioned Nagel, you might have mentioned a couple of others. But in thinking about that, did you reach out to, say, Rita Young or to Vesna Noon or any of those high-profile Cambodians that you could stand on a stage with and say, they're backing me? And the reason I ask this is yesterday on social media where I saw some photographs of Vesna and Rithi with Roddy. So what kind of efforts have you made in that regard to grab a high-profile Cambodian resident of the 18th Middlesex District?
Sure.
To back your campaign?
Sure. High profile. We'll go to high profile first, and then we'll go to
whatever you
ordinary
want.
business. Sure. About a week and a half, 2.5 weeks ago, I called Rithi Young. Rithi and I have always had contact. As a matter of fact, when I was a wire transfer agent, he would come in and wire money to Vietnam or Cambodia. I got to develop a relationship with Rithi. He worked at Lowell High School. My friend Tim Fallon worked in the same type of position over at Greater Lowell Tech. We've always come across each other, Rithi and I. I reached out to Rithi, and Rithi said, Fred, I would love to help you, but, I don't know that I necessarily can. Firstly, I'm a Democrat, and secondly, I have a fellow countryman, running for this position. I went, Vesna Noon lives...
It sounds like you're in a tough position, because we talked about this yesterday. Fellow countrymen, so they're gonna go with their fellow countrymen, and then we were talking about Democrats too. And you're going to all the Democrats.
To a degree, but I have no problem, conversing with them or talking to them. It's not like I'm trying to shy away from them. Vesna Noon lives about 8 houses from my house. I went up there on a Sunday afternoon and I had a nice conversation with Vez for about an hour. You know, and I said, Vez, you know, is there any chance, I realize you may not be able to back me, or if you can, but you know I want to work with your community if I do get elected. So I want to go ahead and keep that ongoing conversation that we can have, and you know.
But have you gotten anybody though, Fred? Anybody that you tried to get like in that regard?
Well, I guess you know, as far as, well, you know, let's stay in the Asian community. There's a gentleman that runs a liquor store over in Couple Square, and you know, he wanted to meet me, and he indicated to me that you know they're having some gang issues, they're having some prostitution issues, they're having some very difficult issues. You know, over in Couple Square, and it's affecting him as a business owner. He's a little nervous of what's going on behind the building over on Leroy Street and such, and he said, Fred, you know, is there anything that you could maybe do? I says, well, how's your lighting back there? He's like, I'm always putting up lighting myself, but it's still not enough, and people are hanging out back there. So, you know, I called Kevin Murphy's office, and Kevin Murphy was, you know, gracious enough to go ahead and go into there and send Mike McGovern in and Mayor Rodney Elliott in, and they spoke to the gentleman, and they started hardwiring the lights. There's about 7 or 8 telephone poles that have no lighting back there.
So what's
And
the
they
deal? Is he
hardwired the
coming to-
lighters.
is he
He's
coming
in.
to join you?
He's in. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
he's got a Bahou sign right on his liquor store. I've got a number of people that come in my store that are you know, Asian descent, that have my bumper stickers on their bumpers. They have their signs in their yard for me. The last thing I want to do is break up the Asian community based on, you know, whether it's, you know, for Bahou
Well, I don't
or
think you can
against
do that,
Bahou. But at the end of the day, I do have support within the Asian
Do you think you
community.
can win without the Asian community support?
No. I need the Asian community. I want to work with the Asian community, and I will not differentiate myself from the Asian community, because if I get this seat, the Asian community is something that needs to be brought into the overall work
All right.
of what happens
All
at
right,
the
so
State
there's a
House.
good, so in the 18th Middlesex District, do you believe that the district has embraced the Cambodian community as one of as the fabric of the community, or do you think there are still 2 very separate individual communities where there isn't quite that trust and admiration that you might see in another district?
I think the biggest deal with the Asian community in the city of Lowell and the 18th Middlesex District is communication. And is there, you know, ongoing communication between the Asian community and, you know, City Hall or the governor or the State House per se? And, you know, and it needs to be an ongoing dialogue. So, do they feel totally embraced? No, they do not feel totally embraced. But do they want to go ahead and grab on to what can be done and work, you know, with people in the State House or in City Hall? Yes, absolutely.
Do you think they trust local government? Do you think they trust their state rep?
I think they do. I think realistically, at the end of the day, I think they really trust me. Personally speaking.
Why do they trust you?
Because I have an ongoing relationship with them. Because 50% of my client base is Asian. Because I go to their parties. I've gone to Vesna Noon's party. I've been with Rithi Ang at a house party. I have, you know, no reservations about going into the party. They feed me their food. We drink beer together. We have a very nice dialogue, and I've let them know. I think that, you know, a good portion of students over at the Greater Lowell Tech are of Asian base, and we need Asian guidance counselors, and we need Asian teachers. And you guys even had a editorial about it recently in the newspaper that said, you know, let's stay away from, you know, hiring family members and start looking at trying to hire people that represent this whole community. So Lowell High School should be the exact same way.
Have you picked up any Khmer by chance?
I can count. I can say thank you, Moi Pi Pai Boom Pram. Yep, that's 5. I can count to 10. I can get to 50. I can say hello.
It's not a wisecrack
Sastay.
question.
Not at all. Not at all. It's part of what I do in order to keep my customer base and keep the ongoing communication and develop the trust. They want you to work towards
One
them.
last question. So if you're elected,
Yes.
would you vow today to put on your staff, you know,
Number one choice to put somebody from the Asian community on my staff, and I've spoke to Vez about it, and I've spoke to Rithi about it, and I'll speak to and I will
What, to ask
find
them
that
to
right
work for you?
person. Would I
answer-
ask them to work for me? I don't think they
Okay.
could work for me, but I think they would send somebody my way, and I would need somebody that's competent so that I could work in the constituent services. Constituent services that's required, and I could go to their events and into their functions and let them get to know me, as they know Dick Howe, as they know a gentleman over in Couple Square runs an insurance agency. All of a sudden, I can't think of his name, Haskell. As they knew Patrick Murphy. At the end of the day, there needs to be an ongoing relationship with the Asian community, and I think that I could chat. I have no problem with that. Simply because at the end of the day, my family's immigrants. You know what I mean? I understand this immigrant situation. I understand there's
Where are you from,
deportations.
Fred?
My parents came from Palestine. I'm from Lowell, Massachusetts,
Right,
again.
yeah.
But my parents came from Palestine, and then they moved to Lebanon, and under, I don't want to say political asylum, but refugees, they got to come to the United States, with Andrew and Sarah sponsoring them in 1956.
No matter who wins, it's going to be a great story, I think, in this district.
I like that. Can we make a movie?
Two great. But if elected, you're going to be elected as an independent.
Mm-hmm.
You would be the first independent to be seated at the State House, which is
Is that
what-
true? Because I
Well-
spoke to somebody, they told me a couple of other unenrolled have been elected over at the State House, in the
I
past
don't think
number of
they've
years.
been elected as an independent though.
Okay.
They were unenrolled, but they ran either as a Democrat or as a Republican. I think it was a Democrat.
Don't you need
But-
to change parties in
Well,
order to go
here's
ahead
the question, okay?
Yeah.
So you're, if you were elected as an independent, and certainly, that's nice that you're going to be open-minded, but you will have to caucus with a particular party, either Democrat or Republican. Have you given any thought to that and who you might caucus with?
I think what's most important to me is Lowell, Massachusetts. My business is in Lowell, my children are raised in Lowell, my investments are in Lowell, my allegiance is in Lowell. Dave Nangle, Tipper Golden, Eileen Donahue are all Democrats. I will work and caucus with the Democratic group in order to go ahead and bring funds into my area and keep the 18th Middlesex District at the front burner. There is right now the most important thing I can do is try to satisfy my constituents and not try to satisfy what I think might be state issues.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, okay, if you are elected, what are the 2 or 3 things right now that are important to your district that you will work on? And be brief. I mean,
Four things. Four things. Safety, guns.
Okay.
We need to remove guns off the street. Fox Bartley should go ahead and be enforced at the court system so that we can stop having our youth looking up to people that are running guns. Okay, our youth is the direct first. Second, opiates. Opiates are issues, drugs are an issue. I would love to go ahead and try to have people teach about drugs in school twice a year. Not once, but twice. I speak to the drug addicts too. And they say, Fred, they teach us in October and they forget all about us. And, it's probably nice if they taught us in October and May. They catch us coming in, they catch us going out. We need to stop the increase of drugs and we need to level it off before we can start to decrease it. The Hamilton Canal District, the courthouse. The courthouse needs to be built. We've put a lot of time, we've put a lot of effort into it, and it is, and our courthouse is currently deteriorating. So, let's go ahead and get that moving forward. And lastly, a Rourke Bridge. I talk to people about it. It's been a temporary bridge for 31 years. And people talk to me about the ambulances coming down the middle. They talk to me about the steel that's coming through on the road system and how slippery it is in the winter, how slippery it's going to be this winter, how it bounces up and down when you walk under it. So, and I would love to work with Tipper Golden to go ahead and create funding for that road.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question because the state is saying, it's got a backlog of bridge and roads projects because they don't have enough money to put towards all these things, and yet that's why we have question 1 on the ballot, the gas tax. okay, which is now indexed, okay, to the cost of living. And it looks like from the latest polls that question, the voters might repeal that gas tax.
I would think the voters are going to repeal
Okay,
it. I would say
and-
60-40.
Okay, and then what will happen is the legislature will have to vote to reinstitute, or at least reinstitute the gas tax to that 3% increase.
Sure.
Okay, so where do you stand on that question? Do you favor the increase in the gas tax without the annual indexing? Do you think that the legislature should vote to raise taxes every year as opposed to just, see, that indexing
It
means
should not
that-
be based on annual indexing. It does not need to be on the cost of living or what the overall, inflation factor is or anything like that. If we need road work and I want a road bridge, and I think so many people want a road bridge that live in the 18th Middlesex District, then it's up to me as a legislature to try to find the funds for it. And if it means having to raise the gas tax, that means that I'm going to have to go ahead and take that hard vote. And if I need to take that hard vote towards bridge repair, towards road system, if we're 41st in the United States as far as the road system goes, then that's something that we're going to have to tackle on. And and I'm not scared to go ahead and take that difficult vote.
What if the voters vote to repeal casino gambling in the state, and then you already have given a license to the people of Springfield who voted that they want a casino? Would you take a vote then in the legislature to reinstitute casino gambling? Yes or no?
Well, we have to really consider what the people are saying. That's first and most important. I think casino gambling should be brought to the state of Massachusetts. Too many dollars are leaving the state of Massachusetts.
Do you sell lottery tickets?
I do.
You do? Okay.
I do. And it will affect my business and it will affect lottery agents throughout the state of Massachusetts. However, if they're taking these dollars and they're bringing them to Foxwoods and they're bringing them to Mohegan Sun, then we should at least start with one casino. I think the big deal is the Wampanoags, the Indian tribes, and they're going to build a casino as rapidly as we build a casino. But it's part of the landscape, and it would work, especially over in Everett. I would have loved to have seen it at Suffolk Downs. It will work. It will bring money into Boston. It will bring infrastructure into Everett, and it will create a atmosphere that people want to go to in an area that they've never wanted to go to.
Very good. Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Fred, in today's paper, a story written by Amelia, Karen Polito was in downtown Lowell yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
She toured downtown Lowell with City Councilor Corey Belanger, who's chairman of the City Council's Economic Development Subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
And Amelia quoted Corey Belanger being very critical of the Democratic administration, saying it hasn't gotten anything done in the city, and that projects are wallowing. They're not getting the proper attention that they need. Some of the city's most prominent Democrats jumped all over that, including Pangie, including Eileen Donahue, and including the State Democratic Committee. I'm just wondering, do you feel that the Democratic administration of Deval Patrick has left the city high and dry?
Not high and dry. They've worked on projects in the city of Lowell. We've got that Eddie Early garage. We've got the Greater Lowell Tech that was built. Our renovation project. This city has been progressing forward. Granted the shootings are an issue, but no, I really believe that Deval Patrick's administration has done a lot of work and created a lot of funding in the city of Lowell that have made our city, more people have no problem moving in or coming into our city. Other than the shootings, people, like what, there is to offer in Lowell, Massachusetts. Go ahead.
Well, this is my last question before we give you a minute to say why we should endorse you for this seat. But you come from a minority district most of those parents are seeking opportunities for those children, and that is the best educational opportunity for them. Some are putting them in their charter schools, the 2 charter schools that remain in Lowell. And by the latest reports, those charter schools are doing quite well. Well, at least the one on Jackson Street, which is now level 1. And then you have another one that is going to be building up at the old Bradford Industries on Middlesex Street. But yet, the state has, the legislature last year, the House passed a bill to expand charter school seats in the lowest performing school districts like Lowell. And yet, the Senate, rejected that. All right. Now, it probably might come up again in this session. What are your views on charter schools? Do they fit in with in-district schools? Do you think that parents deserve more choices for their children or less choices for their children? 'Cause that's basically what it comes down to.
I'm a parent. I have 4 children. I think the most important thing is I can have choices for my children. If the charter school works in urban districts like Lowell, then we need to go ahead and try to fund more charter schools. And unfortunately, if that means we have to make some cuts out of Main Street School, then maybe we can do that. You know, over at the Great Lowell Tech, we've cut a lot of administration. Maybe it's time we can start considering, through attrition, how we can go ahead and, fund, how charter schools could go ahead and benefit our students. I know Jackson Street School, the Lowell Community Charter School, didn't work a number of years ago. I saw the kids waiting for the bus in front of my store, and I saw the numbers that were coming out of that school. And it's had a complete turnaround, and, Miss Egmont that runs that school is doing a wonderful job. And she's running her own fundraisers, golf fundraisers, and sort of raffles and such like that to pay for computer labs and to pay for certain things to bring into that school. And it's time that we go ahead and give everybody a choice of what they think is the best school. If you have a 400-person waiting list, like they do over there, and like we did at the Greater Lowell Tech, then we need to address that. So that's how I feel about charter schools. So I would back them.
I want to thank you for
Only if they
coming in
work.
today.
Thank you.
And answering our questions and doing a pretty good job. So I want to give you 1 minute to explain to the voters why we should endorse you and why they should vote for you.
And I'm timing it.
Timing it. Okay.
I'm
Well,
only kidding.
of course.
I'm only kidding.
Of course, I'm running for state representative of the 18th Middlesex District because I really believe, firstly, it's a diversified community. Secondly, I've lived in it all my life, and I've been working with the diversified community regularly in my convenience store for 20 to 30 years. It's been in the family for 40 years, though. I work at the Greater Lowell Tech. I'm a school committee member of the Greater Lowell Tech. We have a diversified school population. I think the best thing that I can do is offer diversification, understanding in the 18th Middlesex District. I think that if you vote for me, you're going to get experience, and you're going to get a man that you can trust. I've been the person at the Greater Lowell Tech that took some chances, took some risks, and the school has moved forward. Again, we've gone from 2,060 students to 2,200 students, and we've gone from a waiting list of 450 to a waiting list of 115. I said we need to remove antiquated shops. We removed antiquated shops, and we created new shops. I still have that ongoing conversation with our superintendent so that we can go ahead and have more new shops coming in. So, if you vote for me, I will be the best representative that I can be for you and only for you, and I am very accessible. So please vote Fred Bahou on November 4th. Thanks.